Morning, I'm Kelly and I'm going to discuss the document Rights and Responsibilities of Test Takers, Guidelines, and Expectations. This document lists the fundamental rights and responsibilities that represent the best judgments of testing professionals about the reasonable expectations that those involved in testing should have. As stated in the preamble, this document should be used as an adjunct or supplement to the standards set forth by the Standards for Education and Psychological Testing. Under the test takers' rights listed as 4C, under the Guidelines for Testing Professionals, instructs test administrators to provide test takers, if requested, with information about any preventative measures that have been instituted to safeguard the accuracy of test scores. Nothing about that really stood out to me, but the second half did. It says, such information would include any quality control procedures that are employed and some of the steps taken to prevent dishonesty in test performance. What jumped out to me is the phrase, steps taken to prevent dishonesty in test performance. I found that interesting that is a right of a test taker, specifically in the psychological field, where it is quite possible that clients may skew their answers, either intentionally or unintentionally, for many different reasons, and where it is quite possible that clients may possibly answer incorrectly without conscientious deceit. Another responsibility of the administrator that I found interesting that it was included came under statement 9G that says communicate test results to test takers in an appropriate and sensitive manner without use of negative labels or comments likely to inflame or stigmatize the test taker. In an article written by Benzies, Young, and Corrigan, they convey that clinical diagnosis, specifically the DSM labeling, may exacerbate stigma associated with mental illness, which has been shown to have devastating effects on the lives of people with psychiatric disorders. There's much debate whether clients should be told of their diagnosis or if the diagnosis is meant just for the mental health professional who is caring for the client. Further individual research is needed to make a healthy decision about how it would affect each specific client. I found it surprising that under 8BC, the administrator of the test is to provide test takers, upon request, the procedures for reviewing, retesting, or canceling their scores or test results if they believe that testing conditions affected the results and if relevant to the repurpose of testing, and they are to provide documentation to the test taker about known testing conditions that might have affected the results of the testing. It is an obvious step for test administrators to provide a testing environment that is appropriate. This right appears to give a lot of latitude for test takers to cancel out their test scores based on their comfort level, unless the environment was obviously inappropriate or an event happened that was unsuspected. There were two items I felt were missing. The first is that there is no mention of informed consent. Our textbook states this as one of the first steps before administrating a test. It states that examiners must obtain and document informed consent from examinees orally or in writing prior to the assessment. This is supported by the American Counseling Association and American Psychological Association. I also found it interesting that in a document that states the rights and responsibilities, that while it addresses cognitive and physical disabilities, it does not make any recession for those with emotional incapacities that may affect their ability to participate in a written assessment test, such as anxiety or inability to concentrate. Because this document addresses educational and psychological tests, some form of concession should be made for those that are unable to take a test due to debilitating anxiety or emotional distress or other forms of mental illness. Thanks for listening.